Well, we have made it to May 5th, and we are 10 days from a really important deadline. Do you know what it is? It is the deadline to file your property tax protest. But according to this study, half of Texas homeowners don't even know that you can protest your taxes. Well, I'm here to solve this riddle for you. You can. So we highly recommend every year to take a look at your tax assessed value. How do you do that? You need to go to your county tax appraisal district and just search for your property. It's public record and look to see what they have appraised you for 2025. Now, your tax assessed value doesn't have anything to do with your market value. You might be able to sell your house for 800,000, but that doesn't mean you need to pay based on that value. You need to pay on what they have assessed you for. Maybe they've assessed you less than that, which would be nice. But very often we find our clients, the tax assessed value is higher than what we believe market value would be. So what can you do to protest your taxes? Well, of course, you can go on the tax county appraisal district website, and it has information right on the home screen that will tell you how to file a property tax protest. But ultimately, you're going to need to go down to the appraisal district over the summer and voice your complaint and bring data however you want to do it to try to get your assessed value down. Or you can do the easy button like me, and you can hire a third-party company to do it for you. I happen to use a company called Home Tax Shield. And so I've used it for the past 3 or 4 years. It's been very easy. This is what their homepage looks like. You just put your data in there. They will go and do all the protesting for you. And then, of course, if they are successful in saving you money on your property tax bill, essentially these companies will take a percentage, let's say 30%. So if they save you $1,000 at the end of the year, you'll give them a check or pay by credit card $300, and you will save $1,000 on your property tax bill. I like it because I do about 2 minutes of work a year, and they save me a lot of money. I just wanted to show you an example. So I have a little link. You can go and use this link. I will put it below. If you sign up with this, some people have asked, do I make any money? I don't. I had the option to make money. However, I'm donating all that money. They just send directly to a local charity. So just know if you sign up with them, that's where the money goes. But if you look right here, our clients over the past 3 years have been able to reduce their tax assessed value by 4.2 million and have saved about $68,000. Now, Home Tax Shield is just one company. There are many other companies that can do this for you. There's one that advertises a lot called OwnWell. There's Texas Pro Tax. There's Five Stone. There's a bunch of others. If you want a list of those, feel free to email me and I will send it to you. But anyways, just a reminder, you got 10 days. So if you want to file your property tax protest, the time is now to do it. All right, let's talk about where we are in the market. I'm going to move over there. So this is kind of a meter to show you where we are tilting in the market. Inventory right now, which is sellers, is outpacing demand, which is buyers. And so what's happening is the inventory amount is building up and it's starting to tilt towards a buyer's market. We kind of assumed that was going to be the case this year, and it's just proving to be true. I'll show you some data here and as we go forward that will show you what's happening. But basically, 6 months is really starting to tilt towards a buyer's market. There are some pockets that if they're priced well or they're really highly desirable school district areas, those can still be sellers markets or balanced markets. We're seeing other parts of the metro be extreme buyers markets. They have way more supply than demand. So if we look at these two charts, I'm going to bring them up here. So this one over here is supply. And so supply is way above. If you see all the gray bars at the bottom, that is the 10-year average. And so on average in April, we would have about 8,000 homes for sale over the last 10 years. During the pandemic, way less. Pre-pandemic, we were really more in the sevens at that time. And then if you go all the way back to 2016, we did have up to 10,000 homes for sale. But in the last 2 years, we had 11,000 last year, and now we had 13,500 in April this year, which is why the blue line is just way above the average, almost double essentially what we had before. In May, it's only showing us last year we had about 12,000 homes for sale. This May, we're going to tip over 14,000 any day now and climbing. So we have way more sellers than we've had at any time in the past 10 years. If we look over at demand, it's not terrible. The demand is okay. We're seeing demand pick up in the spring, which is typical. It always kind of bell curves up in the spring. If we look at April of this year, we had about 3,100 homes sold. Last year, we had about 3,000, 2003, about 3,000. In the peak of the pandemic, we had about 3,700. So the gap between peak pandemic and now is only about 600 homes. The biggest difference is way over on that supply chart. We've got, in the pandemic, we had 2,300 homes for sale. And now we have almost 14,000 homes for sale. So even though the demand side, it's about 600 homes, the supply side is over 10,000 homes. Huge difference in the number of homes. And here's what's happening to appreciation. So this is a 10-year chart. So if we look back pre-pandemic, Austin was growing. It was growing well. We had a good economy, jobs, people moving, the demand still moving to the market. So, 8% appreciation, 7, 5, 3, 2, and then the pandemic hits 9, 31, 10. So you had huge appreciation, especially during that pandemic. Well, now the forces of math are bringing the market back to it's having to stabilize with higher interest rates, less demand, higher property taxes, higher insurance. So what's happening is all those pressures are reducing demand, and the sellers are wondering where all the buyers went. And so we are starting to see price start to stabilize off last year, but we have not seen inventory stabilize. That part is still the unknown. We're going to have to see what happens later this year. If demand doesn't pick up, you're going to have a lot of homes that withdraw and expire from the market because there just aren't going to be enough buyers to buy them. And so one more thing I wanted to show you on here, which I think is a good visual. I always have sellers ask, well, what happens if I don't sell immediately? Do I have to lower my price? What happens later in the deal? Well, as you can imagine, it's not that complicated. So if we look at negotiations on the left-hand side, this is everything in the market. And what happens when it stays on the market? Well, let's say you have an asking price of $500,000. Whether you started at $500,000 or not doesn't matter. You're at today $500,000 as a list price. Well, if you sell pretty quickly, you'll be very close to list price. You'll be within 1 or 2% of list price as long as you do that within, let's say, a month. As you go into the second month, maybe it's 2.5% off list. You go into the third month, closer to 3%. You hit 3% after 3 months. You get to, 4 months on the market, you continue to drop. And that's off wherever your last list price is. But ideally, once you get to the price that a buyer may want to negotiate with you, odds are you're going to settle somewhere between list price and maybe 3% off list price. It just depends how long it takes you to get there. So that's the right-hand chart, which says price adjustments. So again, original list price to the asking price. These are price adjustments. So again, your original price adjustment, if you don't hit it off the bat, you may drop. And what we see this one drop a little harder. So what happens is the longer you sit on the market, you're going to have to adjust your price to get to where buyers on the left-hand side want to actually write you offers. So at the 90-day mark, we're seeing houses already adjusting about 6% off their original list price. We get later, maybe 4 months, you're about 7.5% off list price. You get to 5 months, you're about 8% off. So what's happening is prices are coming down the longer properties sit on the market, but it doesn't mean that they started at the right price. And this is where it can get confusing to people. If you list $100,000 higher than the market wanted to pay you, it's going to take a while for you to get that price down to where the buyers want to buy it. But ideally, the closer we can get to where we think the market is moving, where buyers are writing offers, ideally, you can have a faster sale and sell or be able to negotiate at a higher price. Pretty standard stuff there. Here are 10-year charts. This is historic sales price trend. And again, when we had, I'll call them normal or, good interest rates pre-pandemic, they were in the 4s and 5s for most people. And the market had a good economy. Things were stable. We saw some nice appreciation. Then rates dropped after the right after COVID. And boom, everybody got low debt and needed to get out of their house, and everybody went and bought real estate. So you see the price rocket up. And of course, then we did the opposite. We throw high interest rates on there, and then property taxes and insurance and everything follows. And now we've seen the prices adjusting down. So in the spring, every spring, we're going to see a pop. We're seeing it right now on the very far right end of we're going to see a pop because this is typically when you have the most buyer activity is in the spring, but we don't know what the second half of the year is going to look like yet. Every second half of the year, the median price tends to go down. I can see it on every one of these charts. The only year it didn't do it was 2020. But even in 2021 and in a huge, of course, 2022 with the interest rate increase, every year we're going to see the second half of the year give up some of those spring gains. The question is, will they give up more than we gained in the spring? And that will dictate if this year has appreciation or depreciation. And here's what's going to drive it. This is back to supply and demand. So the green is supply. How many homes at any one time are on the market? And you can see what pre-pandemic looked like. And this was, we peaked out in 2016, and then buyer demand just kept coming because Austin's growing. We got more people moving here. And so inventory was coming down. Buyer demand was kind of picking up. And then, of course, pandemic, and you see there's no homes. This whole gap in the middle is when we had so much demand and so few people selling that it just ate everything up. But then, boom, you see the interest rates come up and immediately we're back up to near record supply. And now we're climbing almost off the chart. Like I said, we're going to be about 14,000 homes for sale. But the blue line is buyers. This is closed contracts. That peaked out, of course, during the pandemic. It was climbing. 2021 was our peak year. We had good spring in 2022. And then since then, we've seen buyer demand taper off. So we're seeing fewer and fewer buyers, and that's allowing supply to build up. So pay attention to that. This is going to be maybe the gas and the brake to what's going to drive demand, and this is interest rates. So we are still a little bit below 7%. That's good. We're sitting about 6.9. We'll see what the Federal Reserve says this week. Again, they don't directly impact the mortgage rate, but they impact kind of the sentimentality of where we think we're going with inflation and the economy and things like that. So they're going to be meeting this week and making announcements midweek. Pay attention to that. Finally, everybody said during the pandemic, Austin was the hottest place. Everybody's moving there. The market's going nuts. But then, of course, when, now that they see the market correcting, they just assume everybody's leaving. Well, that's not true. According to the Penske Truck announcement, top moving destinations. Here is the map right here. Look at Texas, all 4 markets. So if I come down to the top 10 moving destinations, Houston, number one for 4 straight years. If you've ever been to Houston, by the way, it is massive. So Houston's got a lot of growth. Atlanta, number 2, San Antonio, 3, Dallas, 4, Orlando, Charlotte, Vegas, Chicago. Hey, good job, Chicago. We got Austin and Tampa. So basically Texas, Florida, no matter what people are telling you, this is where people are still moving. Okay. They're still moving. The weather's warm. The jobs are here. People are still moving, but we built a lot of supply. So at the end of the day, if you are a seller right now, this is what your competition looks like, that big green bar on the right. We have a lot of people trying to sell, and here's how many buyers we have down here in the blue. So we've got more chairs than we have people playing musical chairs. It's that simple. So really got to get the house in great condition. You might need to consider being a very attractive price so that you can get enough buyer activity in that first couple weeks so that you can get an offer. Otherwise, as I showed you, time over time, price is going to have to make some adjustments down to find buyers as we sit on the market longer. If you're a buyer right now, man, this is the best news you can have. That green bar is what you get to go look at. So you got lots and lots of inventory to look at. Interest rates are things we can work on. And of course, talk to us. I'm a mortgage lender as well. There are ways that we can get that rate down with points and credits from a seller. Anyways, hope this was helpful. If you want to follow our videos each and every week, make sure to click that subscribe button on our YouTube channel at Ryan Kelly Group. And of course, if you know somebody looking to buy or sell or invest or finance here in the Austin area, we'd love the opportunity to chat with you. Anyways, we are in, is it Cinco de Mayo? Of course, Margarita Day. Anyways, go enjoy one. We'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks.